business damaging on live stream. You
No,
might,
not at all.
It's just two bottles of champagne talking, Hung. Two bottles of champagne.
I know it's like 9:00 p.m. in Oz right now, so it is every chance that you might have had a few glasses of champagne already. In which case, this will be like a high risk live stream. So pay attention, folks. Things might be happening here that you've never seen before on Founders Focus. So welcome everybody to Founders Focus. This is episode 12. This is a show where we get up close and personal with the people that are building the technologies that are changing the way in which we work today. This is one of my favorite things to do because I'm very excited to speak to entrepreneurial characters. I think they've got so much to teach us, particularly on their own life lessons and the journeys that they've had, which we could apply on our own entrepreneurial journeys, perhaps, but even on our life lessons and the things that we do in our day-to-day. So I'm very pleased to welcome onto the show two good friends of mine from Australia. This is Mare and then Nicole Clarke from SHAZAMME. So Rick and Nicole, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Hi, Hung.
And Rick, let me just start with you. I'm not even sure whether I've got your name right, because I thought it was Rick Mare, but then I see there's an accent on the E, and I sort of recall maybe we've already had a conversation on this before in the past where you might have corrected me on how to pronounce your name. So would you mind doing me the honor of saying what the surname, how you pronounce it properly?
Absolutely, it's Mare. It's
Mare.
I'm from Holland, but somewhere long time ago we're French, somewhere along the line.
I see, yes, because there was a lot of French, maybe this is during the Reformation and period like that, there's a lot of French influence coming into Holland, fleeing religious persecution and stuff like that, wasn't there? So yeah, very, very interesting. Okay, so I will remember that, Rick Mare. Okay. So let's get into this, folks. You're two very busy founders. Congratulations, by the way, on the raising of the seed round earlier. Was it earlier? No, it was last month, wasn't it? So well done on this. It must be a very busy time for you two. So what did you have to kind of cancel in order to appear on Founders Focus today? Like what busy co-founding stuff were you meant to be doing rather than having a conversation with me?
Over to you, Nicole.
For me, it was just my birthday party, Hung.
I know, and I feel really bad. Folks, if you didn't know, this is like Nicole's birthday, would you believe it? And it's 9 p.m. in Australia, so she should be really having a party, and I hope this party is happening somewhere. But she's decided to spend sort of 60 minutes with us. So we're very honored to have you, Nicole. Thank you very much for joining us. And of course, it is late night in Australia right now. Let's talk about the Aussie scene. Whilst we're there seems to be lots of interesting tech starting to happen down under these days. No longer are we kind of dominated by UK, US type of products and whatnot. Can you tell us a little bit about what the feeling is in recruitment technology in Australia? What is the sense of where you guys are at with regards to, okay, building products for the domestic market and also building it for the international global market as well? Any thoughts on that? Go to you, Nicole, you might as well take this one.
Yeah, so we're seeing lots of great tech out of Australia. It's interesting talking to the US and the UK and people saying how much great technology is coming out of Australia. So that's really exciting. We're very excited and proud to be leading that as far as recruitment websites are concerned. But yeah, very exciting times with modern technology for recruitment.
Do you know why this is? I mean, is there a sense that there's always been this confidence, or has there been some sort of change with regards to the recruitment technology scene in Australia?
I think there's a lot of innovators here. I think that we tend to like to travel a lot, as everyone knows, and learn from people around the globe. And I guess for us, it was an opportunity to come back and all the learnings from everything that we've seen across the world come together and create, something amazing, which a lot of other founders that we've spoken to are doing similar things as well. So it must just be something in the air, Hung.
Yeah, and we're starting to see it. I mean, even outside of recruitment, of course, you got these big products like, you know, they've gone globally, right? Canva, like everyone knows this product, everyone uses Canva. It's like amazing how that's happened. Culture Amp, of course, in the HR space, really, I would imagine almost the dominant player in that sort of employee sentiment type of positioning. So, you know, these are Australian technology companies that are really become globally dominant in their sector, and probably you wouldn't have thought it's not, you know, perhaps not the obvious market to start with, because it is a time zone issue. How do you get into other markets? It is also local conditioning as well. Like, how do you get the resources to help build your technology? You know, sometimes when you tune your product for a local market as well, it becomes almost over-tuned and you can't necessarily translate it to different places. Sort of what is your thinking about how you're going to do it with SHAZAMME? Because I get the feeling you do see this as very much a global proposition, that it isn't just a local market for Aussie recruiters. It's a product for any recruiter anywhere. What's your thinking about how to kind of internationalize a product at this stage of the business? Is there any kind of things you're thinking of in terms of product build, for instance, or marketing that is worth us talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, I guess it's worth saying we're only about 9 months into having SHAZAMME live. So, we started in August last year. We had our first client live in December, so it was a very quick to get the product up and running and to run some trials. And we're very lucky to have, you know, got this rapidly scaling product now globally, and we actually was onboarding someone last night who's going to do everything himself. So, I mean, this is the first that really we've seen in the market of a self-serve recruitment marketing product that actually works 100% from start to end. So that was quite exciting. But the way we're planning to do it is obviously after this next raise, the A series, we want to focus really on the US and the UK to scale our product and to grow our partnerships. So we already have some very good partnerships in place with some of the top ATSs and other parties, and we intend to scale that by resourcing that partnership so we can service their clients as well.
Yeah, it's probably worthwhile for the folks who don't know, what is SHAZAMME and what's the value prop? I'll share the link whilst you talk about it. But you know, for someone who hasn't heard of the brand or the, you know, what it does, would you like to just explain what the thing is?
Yeah, so SHAZAMME came about after traveling around the globe, looking at the complexities with recruitment marketing technology and how difficult it was for recruiters to manage their brand online. And one of the main components that we've always seen as the foundation of everything you do as a recruiter online needs to be really flexible, very easy to use, easy to integrate, a drag and drop technology, all things that we hadn't seen in this space. So with the creation of SHAZAMME, we've been able to bring everything into one platform to make it extreme. Every person listening right now would be able to, if they wanted to, build a recruitment website or create their own landing pages or campaign pages or build bespoke pages with job boards on them on their website. So the integrations as well, everything is already to go, or everything's ready to go out of a box. So build times are reduced dramatically from, you know, months to weeks or days, and you can bring the costs down because we don't need developers anymore. So it was a real opportunity to shoot the recruitment website technology business into the modern age.
You know what? That is music to the ears of recruiters, because, you know, there's a small segment of recruiters, I think, that are really into the technology side of it, and they love to hack around and build things and what have you. But that's a really small sort of part of the population. Vast majority of recruiters generally want to just get on with their job, which is speaking to people, speaking to customers, hiring managers, candidates. But they kind of just need a great web presence. We're handicapped. You know, I did a quick survey, a quick poll on LinkedIn yesterday. I don't know whether you saw it. It was like, okay, it seems to me that there's been an up-leveling in terms of the recruitment websites that we've seen today compared to what it was 2015. Definitely before 2010, there was some horrific stuff out there. I worked for some companies where I was embarrassed to point to the website, right? Where it was like, please don't look at that. That doesn't represent who we are. And we were a technology business, and it was like, oh my goodness, you're trying to recruit technology people, and here you are with a web presence that is literally, it damages your entire message. Your credibility is on the floor already, because how can you talk about it when you've got this thing up there? And you're saying what SHAZAMME does is kind of just the next wave of making technology applications easier, similar to Canva, eliminating the need for designers to a certain degree, right? Where everybody now can design a very nice presentation without necessarily need to send to the design team. What you're saying with SHAZAMME is that you're a recruiter, maybe you're a solo player, you don't have too many people around you, but you can get a website, a cool website, full functionality, up and running in 24 hours without any kind of technical people that you need to lean on or be contingent on.
Absolutely. And the good thing is we've proven this now, a lot of times where we either bring someone across and they finally realize how easy it is because the previous platforms they've used, they couldn't do anything. And all of a sudden they're redesigning the whole site. So we've had that happen now probably about 20 times, where small organizations, large organizations just go, this is just amazing. Let me redesign my homepage. Let me redesign landing pages. And it's just been amazing. So you can check out all the reviews online, but it is a massive shift that we've seen.
It's a general technology shift as well, isn't it, Rick and Nicole, where things that we used to pay quite a lot of money for are now coming out of the box, if in your terms, Nicole, and if you're like, non-expert users can actually create an outcome that looks amazing, and it could be something that you would otherwise have paid quite a large amount of cash to do. So this is almost like saying, you know what, a recruitment website probably is not like heavyweight tech. You need to have branding presence. You maybe need to have a job board. You need to have some way to contact you. You need to maybe blog on it or something, video content, media content, but it's not like deep tech. It just needs to represent brand, and it needs to communicate who you are as a company and as a vibe, as a value proposition. And that's something that SHAZAMME, as a new wave of no-code solutions, can provide.
Yeah, it just needs to work. And I guess where this originally came from is that in previous business, I always wanted to make sure the customers were able to build their own digital brand perfectly. And while we sold it successfully, Nicole always got the calls going, I lodged a ticket 5 days ago and I still haven't heard back, and the opportunity is already gone. So that's really led us to come up with a vision to say that anyone, as Nicole said earlier on this call, myself and Nicole Yuhang, should be able to build a perfect working integrated recruitment website in a couple of days. And the proof was in the pudding. When we first started last year, Nicole actually built, first time ever, her own recruitment website and had everything connected, into Bullhorn, to JobAdder, to Broadbean, to Edabu, whatever she wanted, she could do on the fly. She could build landing pages. She could change boxes from pink to red. Not a single line of code ever written. And that was really the test. That was the test for us.
You know what, this is so important, because even though it's great sometimes to work with developers, great sometimes, there's some great software businesses out there and web design companies, inevitably when you do that, you create a dependency, don't you? Where, as you say, sometimes you need things immediately, or the senses that we need like that, no latency in this. You send a ticket in, it takes ages for someone to get back, there's too much dialogue required, and before you know it, it's like, it just feels like a stressful thing. Yeah. Whereas what you want to do is just to, move a few boxes around on the screen, or maybe you need to just refresh this and you've got the elements already to do it. That's what you really want to achieve, and not depend on, if you're like, expertise to support you on it. So, yeah. It sounds to me like, if I was starting a recruitment agency for a first time, So imagine this. I work for a recruitment agency. I decide I'm going solo because the market's great, got a great network, but you need a website. Then SHAZAMME looks like it's a thing that, you know what, this can get me out of the box day one, and I can start trading on it and still have this amazing presence out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
go ahead, Nick.
No, I was just going to say, startups are loving it because their brand is evolving quite rapidly, and they need the technology that's going to support that growth. But then the great thing is the more enterprise clients are loving it as well, because they can manage multiple brands from one place, and they've got all the tools they need. They've got high-level SEO, everything integrated in, ready. We can integrate multiple applicant tracking systems into one website as well. So there's just so much flexibility, and the support that we offer as well from a chat perspective is support's instant rather than, as Rick mentioned before, lodging tickets. So it allows people to really progress their brands quite quickly, which is really exciting.
Brand evolution. That's really interesting observation, Nicole, but quite right. If you're like the old school way of dealing with it, where you have, designer, developer, outsourced, and, it needs to be backwards and forwards in terms of evolving what your brand looks like. Over time, you're actually going to make decisions based on how much work it takes to have that conversation. You'll end up settling on something you don't like because I can't go through another cycle of this, with this outsourcer. Whereas here, you can just much more rapidly evolve, as you say. Early days, who knows what we're doing? You don't. You've got to feel your way through the market, and your brand will evolve. So, probably very optimal, I think, for early stage businesses. But as you say, as it scales up, there's going to be all kinds of use cases that may be there. Let's rewind back to how this started. I know you two worked together before in a previous technology business, wasn't that right? Can you kind of describe, when the idea of SHAZAMME first emerged? Like, why did this emerge, and why was it you two that decided to go ahead and try it this time in a new kind of entity?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting story, and it probably won't tell you everything, but the short of it, not long of it, is that we, back in 2008 or 2009 of the GFC, I had a business that was called JobX, and we ran out of money, as most businesses did back then at the first GFC, and we merged with the business that Nicole worked for. And unfortunately, I inherited her major shareholder, who was a billionaire, and we did some amazing things. We grew to over 1,000 sites in a few years. We were profitable, but we wanted to go global. And he kept saying, "You're now profitable. You should just use that money to grow." And obviously, most people that are on this call today will know that in technology, profitability is probably a death, a nail in the coffin, because, as you know, LinkedIn, Amazon, all the big global organizations need cash to grow. So you can't be profitable and grow a tech business very fast. So that really saw us not investing in technology. We went from the number one website provider in the world to becoming second and then third. And, he just finally pulled the pin because he just didn't get technology. So in between all of that, obviously, there's a lot of other issues in that, we couldn't service the old technology. So we had lots of support and clients were unhappy, etc. But at the heart of it, we had all the learnings and knew exactly what needed to be done. So Nicole and I we said, we have to redo this and make sure that we tick all the boxes that we weren't able to tick. And so at the highest level, the four things that we wrote down on a blank sheet of paper were: the platform has to be able to be used by everyone. So, everyone that's a recruiter or marketer or anyone needs to be able to use it, not necessarily create it, because we've got those resources as well, but they have to be able to use it. So that was tick number one. I should be able to do it, Nicole. Hung, you should all be able to do it. So that was number one. Number two, the support. It had to be such leap forward in technology compared to all the competitors. So I had probably 300, online sessions with people just to figure out how we could do that. and we finally came to use a no-code platform that allowed us to make it so simple that, again, the support was almost secondary because it was so intuitive. And then thirdly was the pricing, which starts at 99 USD a month and very low onboarding as well. And then the fourth one was just the vast amount of modules and technology and integrations that we would have to be so far ahead again of the game that we were just the new kids on the block. So that's sort of the four things that we wrote down, and that's where SHAZAMME is today. Maybe Nicole would like to add a few things.
No, I think you've summed it up. I think at the end of the day, it's about technology that's modern, that's going to continue to evolve with the business and continue to evolve with the opportunities. As we know, as you know, Hung, the recruitment technology landscape is extremely complex and continuously evolving. And the biggest issue that we always saw is people get left behind because their tech doesn't integrate properly, and the technology ends up causing more headaches than what it should be doing is, if it's integrated properly, solving the complexity of it. So that was really at the DNA and the heart of everything we did, was the integrations. All these great technologies need to integrate like they're one rather than operate independently. And then our support and service, we need academies so people that want to learn can easily find content, but we need to support them and be able to do that on the spot, not have people waiting around. So yeah, very excited to be where we're at today.
You know what? I think these philosophical underpinnings are so important for any business, but maybe particularly for a technology supplier, because without clarity of what those principles are, it's hard sometimes to make tactical decisions. You often make tactical mistakes because you're very opportunity aware. You're very kind of susceptible to, early customer is your best friend, and they say, oh, we're going to do this. And then, you're very tempted to be the yes person to that. But to stick to those basic principles is so, so important. And, a couple of things you mentioned there were very interesting. And this is, I think, important for anybody thinking of buying or implementing technology. Sometimes you've got to think about how, if you like, interoperable it is, because you might be buying something that is super slick. You fall in love with it. It's the thing that is, it just intuitively feels right. But it needs to be something that will interact smoothly with other bits of technology that are going to be critical to your business. And oftentimes a custom built solution, which is, I'm not criticizing custom build, by the way. I think if you get it right, it could be a very unique offering. But at the same time, that requires a lot of maintenance cost because that's custom. If a product that interacts with your website changes something in some way, you need to be able to respond to that. And you obviously need to go back to the previous developer to say, hey, we need to do it this way. There's a couple of products we've built. I mean, back in sort of the Workshape days, we also built a few products for other businesses and other entities and communities. But now there's like a support cost to us now, which we can't service often because we're doing other stuff. But then we get like a message from a legacy customer or a legacy friend, even somebody who we delivered a service to a long time ago, saying, hey, this is broke, how will we fix that? We're obliged to fix it, but oh my goodness, we can't necessarily have those resources on demand. So as a buyer of technology, very, very important to think, okay, can I swap this in or out? If something changes outside of my current universe, does this product kind of respond? And I think, again, this is very much a future pathway for how people think about applications and technologies, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think no code, while it's not very much spoken about in the recruitment sector, no code, I think, is going to be here to stay in all shapes and forms. And I think more platforms will be powered by that type of technology to make it a lot more future-proof, that you're not reliant on a particular platform that is just going to get outdated. So, I strongly recommend people look at it.
You know what? It reminds me a little bit of, shipping is something that's like super in the economic news because of all of the problems we have in terms of global logistics and so forth. But it reminds me of the standardization, the revolution in logistics that the container sort of a standard actually made. It just totally transformed how we move things across the globe, because suddenly everyone basically put things in the same size container, and it was stackable, it was like countable, it was done all those things. In the 1950s, it was just a chaotic mess. It was like literally just pile it all into a boat and then take forever and a day to get it out. And technology reminds me of almost at this point here, where there was complete chaos. You were so dependent on individual ways to fix things, but what we need is modularization, and that requires standardization, and it needs components to come in and out. And the end user, the person who's actually on the end of, actually getting the value from it, needs to have that sense of control over those components that are being shifted about somewhat. Okay, so in terms of launching this, this is not the first time you two have been involved in a business proposition, but it was definitely a new proposition after a period of time. So I wonder whether you could talk a little bit about how entrepreneurship has changed since the last time you went ahead and launched something, and how it stayed the same. I mean, have you been able to monitor this and think, oh, this worked 10 years ago, now it doesn't work anymore? And then maybe a few things where you think, okay, this worked 10 years ago and it still works now. Any things to share with us there?
Absolutely, and most of them will come down to how the world has become more open, and certainly I think COVID, whilst I hate to say it, has been absolutely our friend here, because we were locked in our homes working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week to get this product off the ground. So certainly I think taking that out, obviously that is a once in a lifetime anomaly, but certainly it has brought the world closer together in terms of all of the platforms that you can use to try things out. And whilst nothing is built on Fiverr, but I've used Fiverr a lot to do little projects. So building a promotional video used to be thousands of dollars. Now you can do it for $100. So if we roll back the clock to sort of where we started last August, what we had to do 10 years ago was we needed to hire developers locally, because the distance and the lack of communication across the world didn't allow us to do what we did this time, which is talk with everyone around the world, from Russia to Bulgaria to Spain to Mexico. Like the calls we had were pretty much 24/7, and you were on Zoom talking face to face, whereas 10 years ago you couldn't do that. It was on a phone call, and you didn't have that same interaction, or you couldn't build that trust. So this time around, it was certainly from the outset, having a room full of developers that you have to manage very expensively, to checking out around the world what is possible and putting your team elsewhere. That's been a very, very important part. Secondly was that I guess when we did this 10 or 15 years ago, we standardized going, oh, let's go .NET, or let's go PHP, and you had to hire those people here. But now the technologies are much more microservices, and you can blend things together through APIs, etc. So again, in the past you had to standardize, oh, we're doing .NET, and you hire .NET people, but they didn't understand all of the other aspects. Whereas this time, we've got a combination of products all working together, all through APIs working perfectly and harmoniously. And we may have expertise in LA that do one thing, another set of expertise in Philippines, and another set of expertise elsewhere, and they're all working together very nicely. So, the world as one economy has really changed, and what it meant was that we're able to pack 6 or 10 years of development into literally 3 months and end up with a better product that is more agile, cheaper to support, cheaper to manage, and was 2 to 3 years ahead of the game. So it's been absolutely amazing.
You know what? So you're almost saying that you are your own example of what you're presenting to the market, aren't you? in the sense that, you know, how you've built your business so far to date, very different from how it was 10 years ago in JXT. Now it's a case of, look, the cycle times are so much shorter that it's much easier to get a product out there than it was before in the past. And now it's all based on, you know, how sensitive you are to the market, how well you know the customer, how intuitive the product is in terms of usage. And I'm totally remember sort of very well back in the day where you had to make those early commitments in terms of what technology stack that you'd have to choose, and that would have all kinds of cascade effects as to, oh, now we need to hire a Ruby person and we're committed now to this, and then suddenly
stuck with it.
It's like you can't then change. Yeah. Totally right. So exciting times. Okay, let's have a look at sort of how you two work together. One of the things that is apparent doing this series is that oftentimes there seems to be, you know, 2 or maybe 3 co-founders coming together to found a business, and rarely do we see one person do it. I wonder why you think that is, and how do you two interact as co-founders in this business? Nicole, do you want to grab this one?
Yeah, so I think it's like anything when you start a business, you need to find people that can do the pieces you may not be so good at yourself. So I think that Rick and I have known each other for a very long time. Rick looks after the technology side of it. I have my input. I love sales and marketing and customer success and support. So I think we really fall into line, and it took a little while. We worked out what our best areas were, and with the support of some good team as well. We've got Paula, who heads up our operations, brings another element to the table. So I think together as a group, we really tick all the boxes. But without those dynamics between us, there would be holes. There is no doubt about it.
Yeah, and certainly I have to say the difference. We used to have a formal board of, you know, old people that, you know, didn't understand technology, and that caused problems in itself, in that, you know, we were miles apart in terms of where we want to be. They didn't understand the customer, the industry, etc. And I guess what we've done here is really taken a very smart female co-founder to be part of the decision-making process, and it certainly has changed dramatically how our vision evolved, and really got us up and running. So that's been the other part of the new business. It's our philosophy and vision is totally different because of Nicole's high-level involvement at the, you know, director, co-founder level.
That's very interesting, and I think you're right. It's a case where if you have, and maybe this is a kind of my perception of technology in Australia, and this is obviously I'm outside in. I don't really have, you know, any kind of intimate view, but it does seem to be there's a lot of like old money dominating a lot of the technology stuff going over there. At least, you know, when I've sort of arrived in Oz kind of a couple of years ago and started meeting a few people, it seemed that, yeah, there was a lot of people that had made a load of money in the 60s, 70s or whatever, but they had then invested stuff, and they were still, if you like, the key holders and the gatekeepers of business then. But as you say, sometimes you need, especially if you're delivering a disruptive product, you need to have kind of disruptive thinkers at the C level, and you know, not do business as it was previously done. Let's talk about how you know, you acquire first customers. I mean, one of the big problems I think for early stage startups is, oh, how do you get your first customer? How do you get the first 10 customers? How does that actually happen? Did you two have a plan around that? Because you've got some experience, obviously great experience previously in software sales. Sort of what was the sort of 0 to 10 plan in terms of customer acquisition?
I think we globally knew a lot of people in the industry, and we are lucky to have a lot of partners that we communicate with quite regularly, and they really supported us as part of the growth. And I think it was educating the partners around what we were wanting to achieve and what we'd created really opened up the opportunities, because we got a lot of referrals. And once we got great clients on board, some of them we'd met in the past. They had gone with other competitors at that point. And then when we showed them what we were doing, they were bought in and on board with us. And then word of mouth really started spreading around the product. And we, to date, haven't done any marketing or advertising other than referrals. So it's very exciting. So I think it's have a good product, get clients that believe in what you're doing, and partner education is so important. And that's really driven where we are today, over 105 clients plus now.
Yeah,
you know,
I think one of the key things, we put our names on the line, and I think we backed ourselves very much in the early days to say, you know, we have definitely brought something unique to the market. And I think the test was when Nicole, after we sort of got the minimal viable product up and running, she started playing with it, and she was blown away because she could build recruitment sites and had never built a site. So then we said, we're really onto something here that is way ahead of the game. We started talking to a few clients that from competitors, and once we showed them, you know, our conversion rate still is in excess of 98%. Everyone that sees the product and we have a decent discussion with just instantly goes, this is what we've been looking for. And so that feedback is now representative on our reviews. As I said before, we've got, I think, 10 times more reviews than our nearest competitor. So, you know, it's not us saying it, it's the customer saying it. And that's the beauty of this time around. With the previous business, we were always fighting with our customers because they didn't understand the technology, and we had to support them through a high level of support tickets. They got cranky with support, called Nicole called me. Like, it was a vicious circle, and it was a love-hate relationship that we didn't want to have again. So this time around, we started, as we said before, with the technology being so simple that it became a love relationship, not anything more. So that's sort of a total different approach.
You know what? That's a really really insightful way to put it. Like, are you fighting with your customer? You know, do you get the sense that there is friction in the relationship? Because if that's the case, something isn't right. You'll end up spending huge amount of effort, customer service, customer support, all this aftercare, because something isn't right with the service. And that's what you've got to get right. And I just wonder how many organizations out there, you know, whether you're a buyer of technology or you're a supplier of technology, have to think about this. Like, are your customers loving what the product is? Are they in your corner? Do they back it? You know, if someone criticizes it publicly, are they stepping up and, you know, defending the product? Because that's a really good sign that they've got value from it. Or are you spending a lot of time doing support? You know, that is a really big thing to bear in mind. And again, the more complicated the system that you custom build, the more difficult it is to actually get that right. So you have to have a system that kind of works for you. You know, eat your own dog food, I guess, is the cliche, but I think it does make perfect sense. It's something actually recruiters don't do a lot of. You know, when we work with businesses, work for recruitment tech, and you find out, oh, you're selling recruitment tech, but you don't actually use your own product for your own recruiting.
That's a problem.
It's like, that's probably more of a significant problem than you might imagine. You know, you can't argue about different use cases. You've got to use your own stuff. Okay, tell me about something that, you know, on the journey and I realize it's, you know, still quite a short journey because you've only been doing it really, you know, in a short time frame. But can you tell us like an error or a mistake that you made in the journey at SHAZAMME that, you know, looking back on it, you think, you know what? That's an error. We've got to redo that again, or we wouldn't do that if you had a replay. Any thoughts on this, Nicole? You got an idea on this?
Wow, I haven't even thought about that, Rick. I should think about that one.
Look, actually, and I know hopefully it doesn't sound too conceited, but because we had learned so much from the previous 10 years that we knew we didn't want to repeat, we've actually had almost a dream run, because Nicole and I talk 20 times a day, and yes, we don't always agree, and sometimes we do have a short, stern word, but so far we've really managed to not really make mistakes. I mean, one of the key ones that in previous businesses and previous life was often the issue. You'd hire someone and you'd wait 2 months. Oh, look, he's okay, he's a great guy, but he's not quite there, let's see how he goes. We haven't had that problem. So staff has been really good, because all the people we employ are professionals working either for themselves or a company that has great culture as well. And the one occasion where we did bring someone on a trial that didn't work out, we made a quick decision. So because Nicole and I know pretty much we're razor focused on what we want to achieve, we're making very quick decisions. And I think the speed at which we're moving and the decisions that we're making are working really well. Now, the only one, I guess, that we have tossed and turned about is, when do we take growth capital on board? And I guess ideally we would have had it on board 12 months ago, but we weren't ready 12 months ago because we didn't have the runs on the board. So whereas now we've had customers that we've been chasing for 5-6 years have now actually come on board as customer, loving it and throwing money at us. So we've really got to a point where we are moving ahead at such speed with almost wins every single day in every area that I can't actually say we've made a bad move. Nick, what do you think?
Oh, look, I think there was a couple of opportunities there where we made the decision quickly that it wasn't right, that the partner that we'd chosen for a certain element of what we were doing, it wasn't a good fit. So we did sever ties. We possibly could have done it a month or two earlier, but it was something that was still dealt with quite quickly. And I think we've been extremely lucky with the people we've got on board. They've just been amazing. So I think, there's been a bit of luck in there, and also we've made the hard decisions quick.
And worked extremely long hours. So I mean, the fact that we've been locked down for Nicole's been in the longest lockdown in history globally in Melbourne, and I've been one in Sydney that was equally as bad. We've just worked extremely long hours, waking up at 7, walking to my office, working till 7 that night, having dinner, going back up, working till 4 in the morning. It's just, that's what we had to do. And so gives you more time to think, more time to make decisions 7 days a week. That's been probably the biggest benefit that we've encountered.
Let's talk about that, because in the conversations that we're having in HR and TA, certainly driven a lot by COVID, where people are reevaluating the relationship they have with work and how to balance things out and all the rest of it. There's kind of been a pushback against the work super hard type of culture. But that's when you're working as an employee for a business. When you're launching your own business, or you're doing your own tech startup, or what have you, there is a different level of commitment required. And I think sometimes that you see some founders sometimes say this publicly, and they get completely piled on for making the comment that we've got to literally grind through this. But the reality of when you're launching something like this is that you probably can't do it on a classic 40-hour week, or
Impossible.
you can, but it will take you longer. If you're able to work 60 hours a week, then potentially you could get things done more quickly, because there is a race, there is an urgency, there is, this is a compelling product will simply be cloned, it will be attacked, there are all kinds of reasons why this requires urgency. So sometimes you do need to push through and crack on. How do you make sure you have some sort of balance within your life, though? Because it can be all consuming. And, if you had 25 hours in a day, you probably would find a way to use it. Is there a way to decompress? Is there a way that you could recommend to someone who's starting an entrepreneurial journey and saying, okay, you do need to work hard, but, here's a few things you need to bear in mind and, to keep your mind and soul healthy? Thoughts on this?
For me, I really enjoy it. So I get a buzz from helping my clients winning. Literally helping clients be more successful really does drive me. And I know that we've got something now that can help them do that. So I think that's a passion for me, where I love advising. And there's so many things that recruitment business owners or marketers that they don't understand, that's really just a bit of a recipe to success. And I think for me, I get that real buzz. So that's my drive. And yeah, I enjoy every piece of what I do. So it's not really working.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely doesn't feel like working, whilst it may sound like we've worked extremely hard. We do obviously play, when we can. Out of COVID, we've played hard, as Nicole's party for 4 days for her birthday. We do like a good drink, catching up with friends, going on the harbour, all the things you would expect. But at the end of the day, what has driven us extremely hard is that we've built a business essentially in 9 months that now, through our fundraising, is valued at pre-money $7 million, post-money $8 million. We've essentially created $8 million worth of opportunity wealth in 9 months, and that's really where we're just absolutely stoked to be here. And the next 12 months is even going to be more interesting, because once we can grow into the US and the UK, it's really going to propel us even faster.
We'll talk about the US and UK markets in a moment, but I just want to sit on this kind of intrinsic motivation, I think is the term, isn't it, Nicole? And it's the idea that, if you are like really without the kind of utilitarian benefits, if you're just intrinsically motivated to do something, that's actually like a winning, it's almost like an ace card you can play, because it means that you're super resilient in this phase. If you're like doing it for the money, or you're doing it because that's your job or whatnot, you'll eventually erode your morale, and your performance will go down. But if you're intrinsically motivated, you're going to do it anyway. A lot of people say the same for me, because brain food's obviously everywhere. There's lots of different channels. Always seem to be on it. I generally am. There's not a day that goes by when I'm not looking or doing something related to recruiting brain food. But it doesn't feel to me like work. It's like, yeah, I want to do it. I don't feel obligation. It's like, yeah, this seems to be the something that I might be able to support the community in some way. So that intrinsic motivation, I think, definitely helps keep me going, and it gives you confidence, doesn't it? Because it means that whenever there is adversity, as inevitably there will be, or there's a competitor comes out with something amazing, that's actually quite good, but you can deal with it, because your intrinsic motivation is almost like ballast in the boat. It makes sure that you're never gonna float off in the wrong direction. Let's talk about internationalization. So US, UK are key markets. I think obvious reasons why, because there are lots of recruiters in both those places. What is the strategy to get into those territories? Because it's obviously hard to do, just purely on terms of time zone reasons, for an Australian business. What's the roadmap to success to penetrating these markets, guys?
So I'll go first, Nick, and then you can add to it. Firstly, our partnerships with the major players globally obviously are in the US and the UK. So we have a product that works really well with them, and we will manage that relationship and support the relationship through resourcing in those regions. So that's number one. Number two, part of what we set out to do, as well as I mentioned, was we were going after the self-serve segment as well, which is the startup segment, which, you know, I'm told there are 9,000 a year in the US and 5,000 in the UK every year that are termed startups in the recruitment space, that obviously we want to target as well through the self-service option. So they're the two main segments that we'll go after. The first one will definitely resource with project resources and sales resources to bring them on. So the 24/7 support will be across globally 24/7 to help them out. Obviously, we've got a lot to do in expanding our academy and our help systems to do that, because really what we want to do is we want to become the Wix of recruitment. So, you know, everyone can use it. It's fully resourced with everything on it. At the moment, we're doing probably, you know, minor updates, releases every single day. They will continue by widget updates, new design, etc. So, you know, we want to build this into a machine that just operates 24/7, whether we're in that time zone or not. That's really how we're going to resource. At the moment, as I said, we already have resources in LA. We've got resources in India, Europe, and in the Philippines and Australia. So we sort of already have that infrastructure. We just need to expand it.
Yep. Excellent. And you're right. I think in terms of like production of recruitment businesses, I mean, the recruitment agency market has been fragmenting for a long time anyway. Because with the availability of technology, LinkedIn is a classic driver of that, in my opinion. You know, prior to the existence of something like LinkedIn, a recruiter really was locked into the database that the employing agency had. If you were to set up by yourself, it was like you'd have to steal that information, right? Or you'd need to start from scratch, and it was like such a painful thing to do. But these days, when people are walking around with 10,000 LinkedIn connections, or you know, they're all connected up with their network and whatnot, there's really nothing stopping you from stepping out and saying, you know what, why am I working for this big employer here who's giving me some sort of commission, when in fact I could deliver exactly the same service to the customers I choose, maybe even charge competitively lower, but take home a bigger slice of that lower fee, because it's all going to me and not going to support this big business. So I think fragmentation of agencies is definitely being a feature. COVID is going to drive that. It's going to like totally accelerate this, isn't it? Because suddenly you've got all of these agents that have been working remotely now for 18 months. And they're thinking, you know, why do I need to go in the office? This commute I don't need to have, and, you know, maybe it's possible for me to do. One of the barriers, of course, is can they get their brand out there? So, you know, products like SHAZAMME, I think, could be super relevant. So yeah, I'll be interested to know, by the way, folks, if anybody who's watching this who is working in a recruitment agency right now, you know, what are the barriers to you to stepping out on your own? I mean, is there anything that you're thinking would be a major concern? Some of these might be legit. You know, maybe you want a career trajectory. You know, if you want to be in an agency and you see yourself as down a managerial track, of course, that makes sense, staying with a big business. But in my experience, most recruiters are kind of pretty much commercially motivated, and they typically work their own desk anyway. So it's like almost inherently supports the idea that they could do it independent of an umbrella business. Okay, let's talk about entrepreneurial lessons. So in terms of, you know, people who are looking at this and thinking, you know what, a recruitment technology, any business that I'm looking to set up and start up by myself, lots of people think this. I think all of us have our entrepreneurial thoughts in our minds, but there's a like a 99% stopping point. And only 1% of people actually go ahead and try it. What would your advice be to a person that's made the decision, they've made the commitment, they're going to start a new business? What should they really understand about what it is to be successful when you're setting up on your own? Let's go to you first with this, Rick.
Look, I think one of the lessons that I've certainly learned second time around is that partner up with someone and don't do it on your own. That's certainly the big difference second time around. So Nicole's been an amazing supporter of everything that we do, and hopefully vice versa as well. So don't think you know everything and can do it on your own. And I think the success with Atlassian and Canva and all of those success stories have shown that if there's 2 or 3 involved, the chance of success increases dramatically because you're not reliant on yourself. So I think that's number 1. Number 2, do some very good planning and research before you actually start. So, test the market, rerun the scenarios over and over again. I think we probably, rebuilt SHAZAMME 10 times before we actually got to the point where we said, this is where we think it should be. It comes down to pricing, comes down to vision, comes down to writing down your major differences to your competitors. So I think there's a lot of planning that is often missed. And obviously, if you go into an industry that you're relatively naive about, or you don't understand the ins and outs, that is going to be even harder. So if you're breaking into an industry that is new to you, it's again going to be so much harder. So pick something that you've got the contacts, and partner up with someone that fills the gap that you may not have. So that's sort of my gold nuggets. Nick, do you want to add to that?
No, I think you've got to know the industry. You've got to truly believe in what it is you're doing, and have people around you that will support you, and speak to industry people around what they're seeing and what they would like to see. We've evolved with new pieces of our tech just because our clients or partners were saying it would really help us if you could offer this as part of your solution integrated into us. And then we've built that, and all of a sudden you're creating all these little partnerships that are going to propel your sales, because you can help them and they can help you. So I think that's important, and definitely get other people, as we said earlier, that fill the voids that you might not have in your repertoire to help you be successful.
Yeah, and I think actually that's one of the big reasons why a lot of entrepreneurs or people who want to be entrepreneurs don't do it, is because they may not have, an obvious group of people to try something like this with. And I think that's really difficult to replicate. One of the big advantages actually of working in a company is that you do identify people over being colleagues, that you can think, what, if we ever do something, I'm working with this person, because you already have that trust built in. Very difficult to do or to have that experience when you don't have those types of relationships. And one of the things that I think both of you mentioned, which I think is super important, is this sense of experimentation that you need to have. It just reminds me that the entrepreneurs that seem to be successful are the ones that are always experimenting anyway. You know what I mean? They just don't have load up one idea and then that's to shoot that shot and that's it. It's even in the middle of that big idea, they're still looking at other things and they're constantly curious, and there's almost never-ending amount of experimentation going on, and that itself kind of cross-fertilizes, and over time you'll find those opportunities will match your delivery of it. You mentioned good fortune at some point earlier today, Nick, but luck is often the matching of capacity, capability with opportunity. And sometimes you can optimize both those things, and you can increase that chance of that match happening. And so it's a way to kind of make your own luck. Okay, folks, we're kind of coming to the end of the show here, but I wanted to ask 2 more questions, really. Firstly, what is happening 12 months down the line in terms of the product? You talked already about the growth into UK, US, but existing customers right now who are using SHAZAMME and think, okay, it's amazing. What else are you planning for those folks? Is there anything on the product roadmap that they need to be aware of that you're excited about and you wanted to tell them about?
I think there are quite a few things. So I guess the broader picture of what we said before, integrations are super important, but also the complete ecosystem of recruitment as such. So we've identified a number of sort of products that are living out there in their own world that don't necessarily, in our opinion, integrate seamlessly into the broader marketing concept. So we're looking to expand those into modules and widgets so that it becomes part of our platform. So not wanting to give away too much, but we're talking referrals, reference, those type of products that, because we have the integrations already, they become almost, a slight extension of what we do. So what we want people to understand and to visualize is that the recruitment website really should be the interface to the outside world, whether it's clients or candidates. That's really the heart of what they should do. So don't have a third-party product that's not branded you, but it needs to come through your brand. So if you're a recruiter, when you do a reference check, you want them to come back to your site and do the reference check on myrecruitmentcompany.com, not to go out to XYZ reference checker. You want everything feeding through yours, so you're building this brand equity. When you do your reference or your reviews, etc., you want them to come back to your brand to do those reviews, not to a third-party brand that, again, doesn't spread it to the web. So we're sort of thinking our platform needs to be the hub, including marketing automation, so that you understand, Hung's come back after a year. We've got him in the database. We know who he is. He's come back, so you must be looking for a job, and then start that marketing automation process. So really, broadening up that whole piece to become the one and central hub for recruitment marketing.
Yeah, fantastic.
Nick,
go ahead, Nick. You're about to say something?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the other one I think is really important as well is all about the employer that's using the recruiter. So we need to think about client dashboards so that the client, this old passe thing of sending a resume back and forwards and, it is outdated. So having a client portal where the client can log in and self-serve or comment and have a central place for all the resumes to approve. Client dashboards, people have spoken about it for a while, being able to understand as a candidate where you're up to in an application process is also very important. So they're all things that are on our roadmap to improve that whole client experience, whether they're a job seeker or an employer.
Yeah.
And not saying that those products aren't available now. It's just that, you've got to buy 5 or 6 products to deal with that. And we would rather have that be on one platform and it becomes data driven. So we're very much about the data collection and using data to make smarter decisions all in one platform.
Yeah, I totally get it. And you know what? If you are a if you're operating a recruitment business, the amount of tooling that you involve yourself in, the less you have, the better, because it's just another thing to implement or another thing to learn. And if it can be driven all through one place, a rationalized place, it just allows that person to get on with their business, rather than have to develop this like tool specific expertise on various things. Okay, that's amazing. So SHAZAMME, for anybody who's interested in getting involved in SHAZAMME, I've shared the link into the chat bar there. It is shazamme.com, SHAZAMME with double M-E. And you got some amazing pricing. So $99 it looks like as a starting package. You can get up and running on this. And in fact, there's a discount offer involved also, because Nicole, is your birthday gift to everybody. Don't you have like an offer to make to people who can guess your birth age or something? Would you like to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, so look, it was a bit of fun really, Hung, after we spoke the other day. It was around guessing how young am I for this birthday. We are giving away a free website build for the person, or you can draw it out of a hat, Hung, who can guess that. And also we do have a 30% off offer as well for anyone who mentions the fact that they saw us on your show.
That's it, folks. So if the $99 starting sort of number is too much for you in some way, you can get 30% off that simply by mentioning, yes, I saw Nicole and Rick on Founders Focus, or via some sort of brain food. And if you want to get an entirely free shot, why don't you just throw a number in there as well in terms of how old or young you think this lady is. And the closest one gets it. I don't think anybody's going to get it because I was shocked myself when I found out. Anyway, that's it, folks. I hope you've enjoyed the chat. I've had an amazing conversation with these two. I know it's like super late as well in Australia, so thank you so much for spending time with us today. Nicole, I hope you have a good rest of the day. You got a couple more hours to spend for your birthday, so happy birthday to you. And Rick, great to see you as well. Let's keep talking. I think there's other news to talk about, isn't there, with this fundraising thing that you're doing again, second time? Was the expression of interest for?
Yeah, so just want to mention that. Yeah, the expression of interest is open for our A series, Series A, and anybody wants to participate, we can certainly share the link or go to our website and you'll find it there as well. So already have quite a lot of interest from industry players and clients already. So it's a good time to get in at the ground level.
Fantastic stuff, and we'll support that on a couple of our channels as well on Brain Food. Okay, that's it, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Have a good rest of the day, folks.
Thank you. Have a great night. Thanks, hon.
Thanks, everyone.
Weren't they great people? Very nice folks. Makes me miss Australia somewhat. Anyway, have a guess. How old do you think Nicole is? And no looking on LinkedIn. Get yourself a free recruitment website. Why not? Very easy to do. And looking at recruiting Brain Food itself, and I don't know, it's not optimized for my kind of work, but I wonder whether it may be due for a refresh as well. And the sort of solution we're looking at here looks very attractive in the sense that it just looks simpler to deal with. And someone who's too busy or thinks they're too busy, this could be the ideal solution. So anyway, comment below, folks. Claim your put your name in the hat for this. I'll also send an email around for the folks who've subscribed to the Founders Focus show, and get yourself a new SHAZAMME website. Could be the change of your brand. Okay, that's it, everybody. I'll see you this Friday, where we've got a cool show on Brain Food Live at 2 p.m. We're talking to IBM on employee generated content. Make sure you tune in.